felt like I was shot with like a shotgun, but it was just the bullet breaking up on the inside, and I ended up having multiple rib fractures, and had to have surgery to make sure that all my internal organs were okay. So that was the first shot that happened, and then and I was the first one to be shot, and then shortly after that is when I was shot in the face, in the head, and I recall being aware of the fact that I was shot in the face. And I remember the feeling of, and the way I have been describing it to people is just like a river of blood flowing from my head. And I fell face first on the ground. And I remember, I don't know too often when people are shot in the head that they survive. So I literally in that moment was expecting that within moments I would be dead. And I'm a person of faith, and I believe in God, and believe in Jesus Christ. And I literally, as my head was on that floor, I prayed and I said, God, help me. And that prayer was to not help me survive, but help me to, whatever happens when you die, to go through that transition. And I prayed that prayer and I said, Lord, help me, but I'm ready. And I laid down and I passed out. And don't know exactly how long I passed out, but I remember at some point I regained consciousness, and the first thing I remember feeling is there wasn't as much blood flowing, and I thought to myself, maybe I'm not going to die. And so after a few minutes, I found some strength to sit back up on the bench that was near me, and the first thing I thought is I've got to go get help. And I reached down, put my shoes on, and walked out the garage door. And I remember thinking, I hope they're still not in the driveway, because I'm about to open the garage door. But I opened it, and they were already gone. And I ended up walking to my neighbor's house for them to call 911. And one thing I do want to say, as I sat there and put my shoes on, before I stood up, I looked over at my wife, who was sitting right next to me, and that's going to be probably the hardest thing for me to ever deal with, because I saw my wife sitting there with her head down and just blood flowing from her head. And I knew, I didn't have to say a word, I knew she was dead.